Well, hello, Justin.
Hello, Amanda. Oh,
Welcome to, actually, I forgot, I'm not sure what number this is.
I
17, 18 or so.
2023. That's what I
Hi,
don't know what we're up
teens.
to.
No, I know now I want to check. This is the Thoughtful Travelers Book Club, and we are talking about Raynor Winn's third book,
I'm not even sure. I
Landlines.
thought you were like the Raynor Winn fan group now. So
I mean, I feel like I'd be happy with that, except that then she would need to write more books more quickly.
that's true.
So, side note, I did see on Instagram today that she, on a post she'd done, someone had said, "Are you writing another book?" And she said, "Yes, I am." Or no, "Are you going to write another book?" "Yes, I am." So that's at least confirmation that there will be more. So I'm happy about it.
I feel like she's dedicated her life to get Moth to go on long distance walks by deviously leaving guidebooks around the house. And so she doesn't feel like she's forcing him. And then
It's a very see-through tactic, though.
Yeah.
Like...
He knows she's doing it. It even comes
yeah.
even in the book. He knows. She knows.
We all know.
We all know.
And yet it still works. So
yeah, I mean, it's probably like leaving a travel brochure to somewhere around the world on your desk. Yeah. So.
Yeah, yes, a very similar analogy, I think, because I would not need much encouragement,
No,
and I don't
right.
think Moss needs much encouragement either. So, yeah, correct. I think it's a very true thing. Okay, so order of proceedings today is Justin and I have pulled out three kind of main or themes that are to us important out of Landlines. And so we're going to chat through a few of those, give a few examples, and then we're going to open up the call to other people. I'll throw the Zoom link into the Facebook live stream when we get to that point. So hopefully some of you will join us. I saw that Philippa is on the line, so to speak, already. So hoping you will join us for a chat too. And I know there's a couple of people who can't join us. So shout out to people like, reminds me, I've got to grab a question.
Some of them had some questions too.
Yes, exactly. Where did I put that question? I forgot to put it in the right place. Chris. Oh, yes. Okay. I must put that question somewhere I remember it. Chris's question. Remind me to ask Chris's question because he can't make it. And Pam is busy driving across some part of the UK and also wanted to make it.
Sounds awful. Absolutely awful.
Having to be traveling. We're just stuck at our desks, aren't we? Justin. So. All right. So first up, as I always say, give us a quick feeling. Did you enjoy Landlines?
Yes, I did. And I shouldn't have paused for too long there because I definitely did. I think I preferred it over the previous one because the previous one was more. I guess it was kind of more of a life update, and not that I didn't like it. It just probably the subject matter wasn't as exciting. Like they weren't the people they encountered in town and stuff, and when they're setting up the orchard wasn't as fun. Whereas this one, yeah, they pretty well met the breadth of humanity on that walk from pretty ordinary people, some pretty nice and friendly people. So, and I think that's what usually is the highlight of the books, the people that she actually does meet. And so I think so. I think I liked it. And I guess who knows what a second book will be, fourth book will be, but probably a walking one, but probably also a bit of a life update as wherever they are as well. So, but
yeah. No, I know what you mean. I loved her second book, The Wild Silence, but it was less cohesive, whereas Landlines is very much a very long walk, even though it didn't start out that way.
She had the flashbacks back to her childhood as well, and that, which I guess were interesting, but and I guess for some people they would have loved those bits, but I
know Pam says that's her favorite one. So yeah,
they set up a lot of the history of them as a couple, but yeah, I kind of had already worked out that anyway. Like,
makes sense. Yeah, no, I really did love Landlines. So our first topic is kind of tangentially connected to this, but it's the fact that this time when Ray wrote Landlines, she was now already an established and successful author, which was not the case for the previous two particularly.
books,
Certainly
yeah.
not for the first one, and not really for the second either. It was kind of sort of early days of it. Whereas this time she's now a really well-established writer. However, if you'd listened to my interview with her from a couple of months back, what surprised me still is that she didn't intend to write a book when they started off on this journey. And until halfway down, she hadn't even bought a notebook to make notes or remember any parts of it or anything. And then she suddenly, like halfway down, thought, okay, this probably will be a book, so I'll get a notebook. So to me, it's amazing that she can still write so evocatively and so descriptively and with such detail when it wasn't really going to be a book.
Yes, exactly. Whereas now she probably jots all these things down. So
yeah, I don't know. I'm not convinced that she does.
Yeah.
Now, we pulled out some notes. Actually, you described it well, Justin, in your notes about her growth and adjusting to the reality of the situation over the 3 books.
Yeah.
And there's a few interesting sections.
I guess the situation is kind of like the health of Moth, the fact that they were homeless, now they're not. But, and then also, just, I guess... she's starting. I think Moth has come to terms with his illness, but I don't think she had really. And I think towards the end, she might be starting to. And I mean, she does seem to put the little fights and arguments they have in the books as well, and stuff like that. So I look, it's an interesting journey, and then that they're going on, and I mean. I don't know. I know people. I know you have, and I know I have gone through this where you've had a friend pass away, and you kind of had some warning about it, and how hard that is. And then often the person, in my case, the person was kind of at ease with it, but the partner was struggling a lot more with it. And so I think you get that in her books.
Yes,
and I think she's still realizing there's nothing wrong with having all the hope and everything like that, but I think she's slowly, I don't know.
Yeah, the reality and the juggling of that is, it's so tricky, isn't it?
It's so tricky, but yet, things seem to be going rather well. So and this book also, I think, was the first time I realized their ages, because I think they mentioned Moth was 61 in the book. So
I think you're about right. Yes. So so through the books, they've been kind of through their 50s and now into and she's probably not 60. Yeah, but I loved the parts where, of course, now she's a bit famous, and so she was recognized in various moments.
Lots of good bits like that, wasn't there?
They were wonderful. So there was one, the group of walkers who recognized them. And they were walking because of the salt path. Yeah, yes, that's right. So someone had a birthday and picked going on the walk, didn't they?
Yeah. And then...
But tell us what the friend said.
That was a good one. And I've written it down somewhere. And, so... and they were from Cornwall as well, the walkers as well.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them, I think it was the tall one.
It was the tall one. I remember that bit too. Yeah.
And, you're Raynor Winn. Is it really you? I hate you. And I'm sure it was said with
similar
to how
love.
I just read it. Yes.
Yeah. Because she would have chosen. She said she would have chosen going to a spa for her birthday, but it wasn't her birthday, and her friend picked a walk because of Raynor.
Yes.
Oh, that was lovely. But my very favorite was they met another person, a man, wasn't it? Who'd said they'd read The Salt Path, and you should read The Salt Path. It's great. It's about this couple who walk, and the man had a brain tumor and he dies in the end.
Yeah.
And of course that's Moth, and he didn't die.
I think she held Moth back as well from reading it. Like, she just probably tugged at him and said, "No, don't say it," because I think that's how she handles all of these. I don't think they actually tell them. Unless someone,
I think often they don't, unless they're really recognised. Yeah, exactly. But otherwise, So, didn't he say, he dies in the end, but it's a bloody good book. There was Moth, not dead, but
yes. Well, I think when we read the first book, that was the first question we all had, was what's happened to Moth?
Yeah, absolutely.
People Googled it and we found out, and he's still going.
he's
I mean,
still going, which is
yeah,
very
I mean,
encouraging. So yeah.
I don't think I could walk from one end of England or Scotland down to the bottom
Oh,
of
mm,
I
1,000 miles.
and it sounds like their feet hurt all the time, and my feet hurt after about 10 kilometers. So,
I know, right? And they're carrying
and
everything.
I'm jealous that they can do it, because it's
Yeah.
something I would like to do, but
Yeah, but I do think this about long walks. If you just do it, you probably
Yeah.
can do it. We're probably always surprised. It's not like rock climbing or something where you need to have some level of skill. Like,
That's right.
walking is
You
just
kind of do
putting
get
one
it.
foot in front of the other. But
Then you get a bit of walking fitness as you go. So
yeah. And your feet eventually, I presume eventually
they go numb.
I don't know. They toughen up, or you just get used to the pain. I don't know. So yeah. Oh, Joan's watching too. Joan, yes, and the weather and the midges and the horseflies. Yeah.
Oh,
There's a whole lot of things.
well, they camped in garbage bags as well, which look, I can rough it, but I just thought maybe that's something I probably wouldn't go as far as.
I mean, it's not my preference. Like last year, my long walk involved being driven back to lovely accommodation every night. And like, if I had to like, there's a time and a place for camping, but I don't really want to carry it all.
I'd have been on the train back, or stay put until the new tent could arrive. And I probably wouldn't have budged on the 3-person tent and gone down to a 2-person tent, because
yeah, no, I agree.
even with a partner that you're probably madly in love with, it still doesn't sound like enough space.
No, it doesn't sound very comfortable. Philippa says they say it is 10% in your feet and 90% in your head. I think that is probably spot on. Exactly right.
I mean, I've done some pretty hard long walks that have taken just a day. Around 20 odd kilometers, and there's a lot of mind over matter you get through in the end. But
exactly right.
There seemed to be a lot of insects actually that wanted to eat them, which is unusual, because most people seem to think everything in Australia wants to do that, and yet I would never have thought about that about England.
Yes, I feel a bit the same. So I was surprised at the number of nasty things that were out there.
Yeah.
Weird. What I wanted to move on to kind of segues from the especially thinking about moth, and thinking about there's a lot of kind of message in the book about living life now, not regretting things, not missing out on things, just taking life as it comes. So my first one I want to mention there is because I have a bit of a an anti-bucket list thing, which I know is controversial, but it's just maybe the framing of it. But early in the book, Moth says, I hate the idea of bucket lists. And so he's my hero. But he said, I've always thought you should do what you can while you can and live without regrets. Then there's no need for bucket lists. And I mean, I like the idea, it's fun to have ideas of places you'd like to go, etc. But I think that, do what you can when you can and live without regrets as much as possible is like a good alternative.
Yeah. You definitely need to have an idea of things. You always, I guess, in the back of your mind have ideas of things you want to do and see, and experiences you want to have. But I guess if you go and tick them off, and then you feel like you've done that, and then you never go and experience again. Whereas the bucket list,
that's one problem. Yeah,
the bucket list, you probably do it, and then you go, well, I had a good time when I did whatever that was X years ago. Let's do that again, or whatever. So, without the bucket, I think the bucket list kind of consigns things to being done and dusted and never to be done again. Sort of idea.
I think that's true.
So,
you put out another quote, which I think must also be from Moth, from page 32. Have you got that? In front of you there.
Yes, this is a good one.
So
anyway, it might be a disaster. I might fall down a gully and die, or spend a week sitting in a cafe just staring at the view. But at least it won't be something to regret, something we didn't do. So that is very much probably something I probably like to think I do. But
same. I do really try and focus on not having regrets. Like if I'm trying to decide on a trip or not, for example, like
Yeah,
would I regret this? So,
and I've got trips that I was looking at, and some come off over the years, and some don't, and then sometimes the opportunities come along, like the one I did for Antarctica, and it just like it was a lot
it's
of
a bit
money,
more random, but it's
but I made it happen because I realised that the experience as a whole, there was more than just one layer to that whole
Mm,
experience. So
yeah,
that
yeah.
made it worthwhile to do that at that time, which is, I guess, something to do with a bucket list. Bucket lists tend to be very finite sort of things, like someone might have go to a place, but some that when you list an experience down, like I know a lot of people have with whale sharks, for example, but there's a difference between maybe swimming with whale sharks in off the coast of Western Australia and then swimming with whale sharks. I know, where was I? Djibouti has whale sharks. They're all around the world. So why
Yeah.
limit it
Yeah.
to?
Yeah, yeah. I also worry that when you focus on one kind of specific thing, that it might just not work out. You might get there and for some reason it doesn't work
Or
out.
you've put a
But
lot of energy into doing it, and then
yeah, and it
and
doesn't
so
grab you.
sometimes so sometimes I know with the way I like to travel is you just kind of plan the outline, in the outline, and then you just see how the day goes. Where you get
Yes.
when you turn up and you talk to someone local, where does that take you? And
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Well, there's a quote that from Raynor that I think kind of covers that as well. So it's when they've noticed that they've passed a lot of people who are really obsessed with analyzing their walking distances and speeds and blah, blah, blah. And so she says instead, our path hasn't been about covering miles and listing speeds. It seems as if our only ambitions have been to take in each moment and collect views. And I love that. I love the idea of collecting views and just seeing, like, taking in the moment, seeing what happens and being open to whatever crosses your path.
Even then there's this whole idea, like, I tend to be, probably because I'm an engineer, tend to like to know how many kilometers or I've walked or how long I've walked, but
fair enough. Yeah.
But it's purely for my own information. Whereas you got the impression from these walkers they come across was like they were like trying to walk at a certain number of miles per day, and how quickly could they cover a distance, and it almost had become competitive.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
And it's like I think I've raised this before in probably a book club about people counting all their countries and how many countries they've been to, and they've turned it into a competitive thing, which
without stopping to enjoy the views, so to speak,
right.
or exactly, the experiences. Yeah. And I think you run the risk then of, like, you go to a country even though it's for a day just so you can say you've been, or you walk faster just so you can say you've done that speed or those kilometers that day, without actually enjoying what's there, and you might scoot past the best views or the best experience or whatever. So
I don't know where the benefit would be to do, say, a trail in 7 days or in 14 days. I know I'd probably rather take the 14 days because
exactly.
The slower pace allows you to enjoy it more. You're not jumping out of bed at 6 a.m. to get onto the hiking trail. You've got time to save you a cup of tea and your whatever,
and you can take it slower during the day, and exactly.
Stop more. If you're a photographer, you're going to probably want to stop and take some photos along the way.
Exactly. Philippa has just posted, and I so agree with this. This is basically what I have, like, mentally in my head. She said, I have a wish bucket, so I can pluck my dreams and wishes from it and can repeat as often as I would like. Not all our travel wishes, but all our experience wishes, like seeing the rings of Saturn through a telescope. Cool. But I think that's right. I have lots of ideas, like wishes and things that would be interesting to me, and then what kind of comes out of that is what comes out of it, but I don't feel wedded to a particular list.
And I even think there's things there are. I even think there are things that are just you don't know about yet either.
You got to be spontaneous sometimes.
So and when that happens, especially things that happen at short notice, or even in your hometown, a show might come to town. You might never have thought, hey, I want to go see that show. and it comes to town, and you're like going, oh, and it sounds really interesting. Well, there's your opportunity, and your window is probably quite small to go and see that show for that one time in your life, and you didn't know you wanted to see it until you've been to see it in the first place. So
exactly right. Yeah, exactly right.
Mm.
Sorry, I've just got a message from Joan. I'm just going to try and tag Joan here so she can find our new one. I'm not sure if she's found us. Joan, there we go. Sometimes I hate technology. Okay, fabulous. The other quick theme I want to talk about just before we open it up is the homelessness topic. Because I know this was interesting when I interviewed Raynor, then you'd submitted the question about this, and we talked about it. Oh, she's back. Hi, Joan. Talked about that at some length there. And and it was kind of, scattered throughout the book, a few points about it. Yeah, take it away.
And I think we see it in Australia as well, where in certain parts of life, homeless people are painted as being, it's their fault all the time, or they're drug users, so then large parts of society then have a completely different way of reacting with them. And I'm kind of curious, because in Australia, I wouldn't associate homeless people with backpacks or rucksacks, as they mentioned, but it seemed to be.
No, that's true, but perhaps it's more common in the UK.
And it certainly, as they got further south into England, that's where they started to pick up on it, because in Scotland it didn't seem to be. Scotland just seemed to have a lot of interesting and out there interactions with the people and the wildlife, but as they got further south, that's where the interactions seemed to be more negative towards them, because they did have that backpack. But then they did have a couple of times where the people were really, really nice, but yeah, like even, they walked into a pub and everyone just stared at them, and eventually kind of they said something and basically told them to get out, and it was like
it was a bit
unfortunate. And I know she mentions quite a lot in the book, a lot of stuff about it, but
and also when they went through Manchester, she was talking about there's a lot of talk about it but less action, and that during COVID, in the initial phases of COVID, suddenly they had this everyone in campaign, which, I mean, we had a similar kind of thing here where we were using hotels to house homeless people and stuff, and then it all just disappeared as soon as the main crisis was over.
That was one of the things I kind of learned from COVID, was that we could actually fix a lot of problems, but
when we need to, we can fix things quite quickly, in fact. So it is
and COVID showed that we could fix these issues, and there was minimal discomfort for the rest of society other than the COVID stuff. But I get a bit not, like, you feel a bit helpless with the situation, because
Well, speaking about feeling helpless about a situation, I want to segue into another kind of issue that she raised a lot, and Joan and Philippa have just raised in here. It was the effects of climate change, which I really liked in this book, that there was more, she was situating it in this kind of broader societal kind of, what's going on, and made quite a few mentions of climate change. And I wondered, I didn't get to ask her this, but I imagine now that she knows she has a platform, I know she said this for the homelessness part, that she feels she can be a bit more of a, an ambassador. And I feel like the climate change part was similar, because she mentioned that quite frequently throughout the book. So as Joan said here, Raynor's observations on the effects of climate change and how nature is being affected. Because of course, when you're walking through nature and, being so close to nature, then you can see those, you can really see those issues in context.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the problem, isn't it? That a lot of people don't see these changes, or don't care about, like, through their day-to-day life, it's not something. So if they're not going out into the nature, or they're not doing jobs that have some link to the natural world, there's a lot of people who just don't think it's a problem, and
it's just too far removed from
their day-to-day lives, and they're a bit apathetic about it, I guess, and then just kind of fall into the line of whether they think it's something that needs something doing, or whether they don't. And it's again, we have solutions for that. So for what we've got to do, and yeah,
it is
it's,
tricky, but it is encouraging to see, I mean,
Yeah.
more and more people talk about it, and that helps.
yeah.
But it is also, she talked about food security, that kind of issue, as kind of a consequence as well. And although it's it's not fun to think about these things, it's so important, and it is really nice to see that as part of
But
her
it's all
kind of
stuff.
growing work
It's
there,
all
so.
stuff we can do. It's just whether people want to, as a society, put the effort in, and that's sadly where you get that split in society about people who do think it's worth it and people who don't. And
Yeah,
and
absolutely
getting to a
right.
situation where, as they said in Manchester, there was posters up everywhere about what they're doing for homelessness. Yeah, it was still pretty obvious that it wasn't doing much. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I've just realized I've also got Chris's question to ask, but what I'm actually going to do is bring in anyone who wants to come in. So I'm just going to add the Zoom link.
How exciting.
Into the chat. So if anyone else wants to join us.
Let's see if we can get people today. I think we've had one the last few times.
Yeah, we've never had more than one one brave soul. So Joan, Philippa, Margaret, if you're all still watching, I know that you three all know we don't bite. Yes, Philippa joined us last time. Was it last time or
For
recently?
the last Raynor Winn, yeah.
Oh, it was the last Raynor Winn book. Yes, that sounds right. Yeah. Oh no, I reckon Pam did. Oh no, I don't know. I've lost track. But anyway, let me just make sure I can
should
see.
Join, and then she can tell us.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, that's very true.
No pressure.
I'm just going to turn on the play the ding dong bell sign, so if anyone comes along. I know they're a little bit. So yes, I have joined. Philip has joined twice. Once with Pam too. Yes, we did. Okay. Yeah, gosh, Justin, you and I have terrible memories. It's terrible.
Well, that's probably my other favorite quote out of all. Because I'll probably end on this one. Is I get when she said, I get up to leave with the stiff, awkward movements of someone who is 50-something and has no idea how many miles they've covered, but now really needs a bag of jelly babies.
Yeah, that's right. I love that. The bag of jelly babies being important. So Philippa is joining us. Fabulous. Oh, wait. Well, she's Philippa. Hello. Joining us. Fabulous.
There's Philippa. Hello.
Philippa, hello.
Joining us.
Fabulous. There's Philippa. Hello.
Oh God, hold on. I'm double noises. Let me cut something off. Oh God, hold on. I'm double noises. Let me cut something off. Oh God, hold on. Double noises. Let me cut something off. Hold on. Double noises. Let me cut something off.
We've got a full loop happening. Okay. Hello. Is that Joan? No, that's
Steve, but it doesn't look like Steve.
We can't hear you, but
technology. Who'd want to work with it?
Yeah, Mr. IT. No, now you're definitely mute.
You're on mute.
No worries, Philippa. Hang on. I can't do anything with it. I'll try again. No. No. Sometimes Zoom is annoying. Justin, how did you get your sound turned on today? Bottom left.
On the bottom left.
Select a microphone. Oh yeah, next to the microphone, the little arrow, and then select a microphone. Sometimes it goes to the wrong thing.
Mute or not mute on mine. It looks like I can see the mute symbol up. So
yes. Oh yes. Sorry, you're right. Yes.
I think I used up all of the speaking allocation when it went on a loop.
It was kind of like a really cool rap song though, Philippa, I'm sure. So
it wasn't cool to me.
It was the Facebook thing, by the sounds of it. Yeah.
It was. It just kept going again and again and again. Yeah. Anyway, it's good to be here, and it's great to have other company as well with Steve.
we will work on this. But we better.
You can
we'll
cut this out, or we can. Yes.
Yeah. It's all good. It's all right. It's all good. So
I was going to say we're professionals. Probably you're the professional, and
oh, I don't feel very professional, but yes, but that is Joan. Yes, I just checked. It is Joan. So why do I hopefully? Anyway, Joan, if you find a way to get your mic working, do jump in. But in the meantime, I'm going to go back to Chris's question. So Chris cannot join us, but he had this question to ask everyone. And we've sort of kind of talked around it, but I think it's a good question worth asking. So Chris says, do you think Raynor Winn has changed as a writer or person between her first book when it was originally not written to be published and she was extremely vulnerable, and now this book when she's in a much more secure place mentally and financially and is fully aware of the commercial circus that follows a book's publishing? So has she changed as a writer or has she changed as a person? What do you think? Philippa, you can go first because
thanks. Yeah. I think so, yes. And that I think just kind of join in, this was my favorite out of the three of them. And I think part of it was that her writing felt much more, it was about, she was writing rather than, I think you spoke earlier on about recounting a story. The first two books, first one was this cathartic process of writing. It was very much about what had happened to them. The second book was the backstory to that, and as Justin said, the update to where they were in their life story. This read much more as a very literary piece of work. The writing I found very beautiful. Her descriptions of the places they passed through were really evocative and really minutely observed, and also her discussion about issues such as homelessness, climate change. They were very well reasoned and argued. I was quite upset though to read that she'd written it in about 4 months. I thought, oh my goodness, I've been writing my memoir for 10 years. How do you do that? So in short, I would say yes. I found that she's really, it felt as if she'd kind of matured, is maybe not the right word, but just really settled into a literary style that was much more comfortable. And it was much more about the writing this in this book than the first one, where it was about the struggle. So for example, in the first book, it was very much, they had no money, and everywhere they went into, it was like counting up their day's allowance, seeing how much they could spend, not being able to have money for food, foraging, whereas money was not an issue in this situation, but the story, it meant she could focus on the story, and they were able to get things that they needed. So it meant that there was much more focus on what was happening as well as what was happening to them. And I think that was really important in the first book, that they were articulating just how desperate their situation was. But yeah, I felt that she definitely matured as a writer. And just as a little byline, she's coming to Edinburgh to the book festival. Unfortunately, it's sold out, but I will be watching her on the stream.
Oh,
so
that's something at least. Yes. Oh,
she'll
that's
be going
exciting.
past my house again, because she did go past my house in this book. I'm not.
I remember you posted that in Facebook recently. Yes. If only you had known, you could have been waiting outside.
I could have been, although they were on their bicycles at that point. And that was another kind of little thing that that kind of, I know it's about the 1,000-mile journey, but quite a chunk of it was probably between 120, 130 miles was on bike. And that's quite a chunk, when that's the chunk that is where you're
that they used. Yes, you have the local understanding of where they really are and what it's really like, which Justin and I lack. So yeah,
I think that also made it really, really meaningful. I loved the Scotland part. I'm familiar with many of those places. I was in Balmaha, where she was just earlier in the year, so it really spoke to me. And especially the bit where somebody had won the football Euros or something, or won a football match, and it said there's not as much joy and celebration as we saw in Glasgow when Scotland had lost, and that just encapsulates the whole Scottishness of it, which is, we lost, whatever, it was a good time. We were going to lose anyway.
and just to put it into perspective, I think the distance is roughly equal to walking from Sydney to Melbourne and back. I think.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
Which is a long way. Walking one way is a bloody long way, but walking back again is a long way. And yet, when you put it into perspective on the size of Australia, it's not that far. But
no, but
at the same time, it's a long way to
walk. It's a really long walk.
It's top to tail of the UK.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Which, yes, sure, it's not the hugest country in the world, but it's still a really long walk.
Long walk, yeah.
So,
Long walk.
The thing I think about her writing is, like, she definitely didn't start this walk. Like, she probably always knew that anything they did, any walks they did, would be in a book. But she didn't start the walk with the intention of writing a book. And with her other books. So even though she's now a writer, she's still not necessarily looking to do a walk so she can write the next book. She's just writing books about life, and it just so happens to include these really long walks. And their initial walk was really just that short trail. So I assume she thought, oh well, I'll put that into the book, and then next book, and then I don't know what else I'll write about. Maybe making cider, the trials and tribulations of COVID, or something along those lines. And it just turned out to be a long enough walk to put into a book. So
yes, definitely long enough. But I agree that I agree, Philippa, that like matured as a writer doesn't seem quite the right phrase, but that she did. It is different, especially to the Salt Path, and as she feels maybe it's like a confidence in her writing. That she has, perhaps, and
it's a settling into her style. And
settling in is good.
I think that's also why I didn't like the second one as much, because I think that was the one where she was probably under that pressure to write another book, whereas the first one was just, it was a success.
Just the moth.
And the publishers have probably gone, well, what can you write as something else? And so she probably felt she was under pressure to do that one, and that was a good book still. And then this is
still a fabulous book.
And then this book just presented itself. Their life just presented itself to be a book. And by a third book, she's obviously much better, a much better writer. Even though she's already a very good writer. But it was so evocative, and so I really liked, as you said, Philippa, the way she was able to weave in some of these other deeper, bigger issues as well. And she did that very well. Like, it wasn't preachy, and there wasn't like big chunks of it or anything. It was just small, observations filtered in various spots. I thought that was really beautifully done. And like, I was surprised when I read it. Like, I was looking forward to reading it, but I kind of thought, it's just, we've done in book club a lot of long walk books. And I was thinking, it's just another long walk, but I'm sure I'll enjoy it. She's a good writer. But I couldn't put it down. Like, I just could not stop. I just read. I'm like, okay, I've got to finish this, which I kind of didn't expect. And it was, I'm just absolutely unstoppable. And I think that's her, like, that writing is now just so, she's so much more accomplished, and it's so. And I think, like I said, there was a lot about these other big issues, but she still had all the people they came across interspersed. Whereas in the first book, all the issues were really just around Moth's diagnosis and could they do it, and
their own personal homelessness and
now she's
financial dire straits.
But even just some of the people. And there was that one person they came across that was it bitten or sunburnt, or I can't remember. And they went back to help them, and they just kind of disappeared. But they walked past them, and
yes, that's right. I forgot that bit.
So there's just lots of, and that was only a couple of paragraphs in the book. But
it's interesting, isn't it? Chris's question. Oh, sorry. Go on, Philippa.
No, I thought there was a bit of a theme there in that initially I found these kind of loose ends, if you like, where there was a bit of a story, but we don't know what happened to the man with the sunburn, we don't know what happened to the sheep, we don't know what happened to lots of people. And then I thought, actually, I really like that, because that's life. life is full of things that we don't know what actually happened. And sometimes we're too neat when we're reading or writing, we're too neat tying up the loose ends. And I liked the fact that, you know, we don't know what happened to the man with the sunburn. We don't know what happened to lots of the people. So yeah, I find that was almost
it's real, it's
for,
true.
yes,
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're passing through, and you've got these, as she said, these landlines, and it's where these threads came together. And then you don't actually know where they go and where they end up, but you pass through them and you lay your own kind of thread there as well.
That's beautifully put, exactly right. The other part of Chris's question is, has she changed as a person between her first book and this book? And I'll tell you, my gut feeling first is nowhere near as much as she's changed as a writer. Like, I think, you know, her heart was always like this, and she's long loved nature. I think she's probably always been very resilient, because otherwise that doesn't come out of nowhere. So that's my feeling. But do you think she's changed as a person between book one and now?
Yeah, and I think she's got that, something I relate to, like she doesn't necessarily want any attention or anything like that from her writing. And I know from a fact, just with the interviews and stuff like that, trying to get her interviews and stuff like that. But even then, she never mentions the fact that when people say, "Oh, you should read this book that she wrote," it appears she never mentions it. And because she's not, I mean, the writing it seems to be, you know, just something she's good at and she enjoys, and she's not in it. She's never was in it for anything other than just as a memory initially for Moth. And I think deep down that all three books have been for that purpose. That's why she's still writing them. I mean, the publishers are obviously wanting them, but she's also writing it for him as well. And I don't know that, I think I said earlier on, like, she was still trying to come to grips with Moth's illnesses and stuff like that. And so if she's changed at all, it's just how she's viewing that whole situation. But other than that, I think as a person, she's still the same person. She's just I think just her writing is better. But yeah, she seems to be, based on your interview, I saw her on it was a cooking show about their cider thing.
Yes.
And you watch that and you just say still incredibly down to earth, I guess.
I think that's right. She's just very much, as she comes across in the books, is how she is in real life. And of course, Pam got to meet her at the Hay Festival and said, the same. We had that same impression, you know. And she was very generous with her time and very humble, and which is really nice. You know, it's lovely to have. I love that people like her have this success. Like, I feel, you know, that's just,
you definitely can't.
It's just really heartwarming.
And she would probably say, you know, she's not really, you know, they had everything taken away from them, and they're already successful in life, but to have it all ripped away and then be able to, and have the health diagnosis and all that, and then be able to just share that with people, and you know, out of that book, they've got a place to live. They're now not homeless. They've now got some money that, you know, and I still get the impression they're quite frugal on the money aspect, and they may have always been like that, but
at least they mustn't be worrying about it anymore.
They seem to be always
they're comfortable, and that's really lovely.
When they book nights in a hotel, or they went to the pub, or they always seem to have a little chat. Should we go get some tea?
They're not splashing out extravagantly anyway.
No, even when they bought the bike.
I think the only thing she buys extravagantly is blister plasters. So I think in that book, so many times she went into a pharmacy or whatever and bought their whole collection of blister plasters. So she didn't stop. She wasn't stingy about buying them. So, but I did see on Instagram today she's been gifted a beautiful new pair of custom made bespoke boots. You have to look on Instagram, but they looked amazing, and she was very thrilled about them. And so, I mean, I hope that means she's going on another big walk very soon. Any last thoughts before we? Oh, sorry, go on.
No, I think the interesting thing as well is that we obviously feel we know her very well because her books are very personal and intimate, but we didn't know her before she started writing. So it's difficult to know whether she's changed in terms of these last few years, but what I do find is, like you said, she doesn't seem to, this kind of fame, if you like, doesn't seem to have changed her at all, which is really lovely that you know, she's not been, you know, she's kept true to her values, and actually she's become an advocate, she's become a voice, and used that name that she's got now in order to be able to you know, discuss and promote and advocate on these particular issues.
Yeah, which is, I think just such a fabulous use of that influence. So yeah,
that's the word I was looking for.
Yeah. Between us, we all get there. So yes. So any last thoughts, because it's about time we need to finish up, but any last thoughts about the fabulousness of Landlines?
Quickly look at my notes. Is there anything in there?
I didn't even mention that I still love the covers. Like they have, they're, you know, they're very special. All of her books have very beautiful covers.
I just just keep looking at my notes and realize all the people that they met. She met, and another one that I really, really liked and was the woman from Thailand who escaped from a husband and to go walking with her daughter. So just, and again, it was only a couple of paragraphs, but it's enough. There's so many of those little encounters with such an interesting array of people, and
yeah, absolutely. And I'm not sure if it made it into my interview, but with my published interview, but I know she did say to me she met so many more people that she wanted to put in as well, but it would just be, you know, the book would be just far too long. So she observes people well.
Yeah, and I think she was very subtle and generous with the people she did weave in, because I thought she was very inclusive. She didn't tell us, oh, there was an Asian family or, you know, a Thai woman, but we would learn that through their names or other things. But she was very good at bringing in people who there are many prejudices about, and also talked of the way that they were connecting with the land and with nature. And I thought that was a very kind of generous and inclusive way of bringing in those attitudes and also really challenging stereotypes. Oh, hello, pretty cat.
Sorry, my cat has just joined us. She thinks it's dinner time.
Challenging
the stereotypes, definitely, which I think is really, she does that very well. And I think perhaps...
very subtly.
Yes, which is a very effective way to do it rather than bashing people over the head. So yeah. She's a bit of a miracle. So
and I also just love the fact that actually the biggest, more than half of it was the Scottish part. So I'm totally biased. But also when I reflect back on it, I thought, the Scottish bit is what I remember. And I think that's because she actually wrote in far more detail for far fewer miles, because the Scotland part is much shorter, but actually it has a lot more prominence in the book.
Interesting. I haven't compared or anything, but you're right. Like the parts I remember much more vividly are all the Scottish parts. So it makes sense.
I think she goes into more detail there, and then they seem to kind of tootle down through England much more quickly.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Well, thank you for joining me to chat about Raynor. We actually, I have to say, normally at this time we announce next book club's book, and I realize we haven't decided, so we must get onto that. But we will. I've got a few ideas, but Justin and I have been too busy, I think, to discuss this. So we'll get onto it. But
if we can do it before, I should do it in the next few weeks, and I got some holiday reading.
That's a good idea. We'll decide in the next week, and then you can take it on your trip. So yes. So
I have it's not necessarily a recommendation for book club, but a recommendation that I think both of you would enjoy is a book called The Raven's Nest by Sarah. Oh gosh, now I've forgotten her second name. It's just escaped me. But it's a memoir of a woman British woman who married an Icelandic man, lived there, and it's all about. I knew. And she came to.
We're both
I met her at our
fans of Iceland.
And it's all about her life in Iceland. Sadly, her and her husband are no longer together, but it's a really in-depth, insightful memoir, basically about Iceland, and it's beautifully written. I will send you the details.
That sounds awesome, because there's a book that I read 10 years ago called something. Hang on, I think it's just behind me. Names for the Sea, which was a similar kind of memoir of someone living in Iceland, a British woman living in Iceland. But I looked into using it once, and I think it was harder. It was not very available. And so this one sounds perfect. You know me very well, Philippa.
I stayed in a home in Iceland, a bit further up the east coast, and the lady there was from Costa Rica, and she'd married an Icelandic man. So I know, and I thought
that's a real diverse kind of
good book. Yeah. So he was traveling in Costa Rica, and they met there.
Amazing.
We just kept asking, how do you get about the cold? But yeah, she seemed to be really enjoying her life, and
Oh no, that sounds awesome. Okay, all right, thank you. That's an excellent suggestion. We will we have taken that on board, because I think this one that sounds really good.
Yes, and you can see whether it might work or not.
Yeah. Yes, it's always the availability, like, decent availability and stuff. But anyway, we'll look into it. Thank you. Well, Philippa, thank you for joining us. Everyone who was watching online, thank you so much for joining us as well. Joan, I'm sorry we couldn't get you onto Zoom. We must have a practice next time just ahead, so we can get you on, because it would be lovely to speak to you in person. Done lots of chatting in the group. As always, Justin, thank you very, very, very much.
No worries.
You're a great book club co-host, and I couldn't do it without you. I don't know why I ever started without a co-host, and now you're stuck with this job forever. So
I don't even know how many episodes you did before we got to this.
I think it was only 2 or 3, and then I don't know. Yeah, but I'm glad we did it. It's more fun. So yeah, thanks everyone. Philippa, you've got the rest of the day to enjoy, and we're getting to dinner time.
End of the week.
Coming up to midday. Yes. Well, I'm being harassed. I've got 2 cats, one either side of me, who I want their dinner. I tried to feed them before book club, but they weren't hungry then. So no, I'm getting bitten by the one down here, and this one keeps knocking things off my desk. So it's time to go.
Interesting. Thank you very much. And I'm sad that Joe wants to join.
Yes, I know.
Book groupie.
Yeah. No, thank you, Philippa. It's really nice to add some extra voices. So thank you, everybody, and we'll announce the new book soon. So enjoy the rest of your days, everyone. Farewell.
Bye.